Hi, I'm Stuart Sorrell. I'm going to be presenting on the critical investigation and analysis of emerging themes and contemporary issues in management practices, specifically focusing on employee engagement surveys. The agenda for the presentation is as follows. We'll start with an introduction, and there'll be slides following on contemporary relevance, advantages of employment engagement surveys, limitations and potential risks, critical evaluation and potential solutions, and a conclusion. So by way of introduction, employee engagement is a contemporary issue in the workplace. Engagement surveys can be used to examine workforce attitudes, diagnose potential problems or issues in the workplace, guide people management and HR strategy, and inform the organisation on overall employee experience. According to Gallup, employee engagement is the involvement and enthusiasm of employees in their work and workplace. They go on to define engagement as the degree of emotional and psychological commitment a person has to their role, job, which influences their level of enthusiasm, motivation, and involvement in their work, and also the sustained connection a person has to the world. But it goes simply beyond fulfilling tasks and responsibilities. It's also what we see, what we feel, what we focus on, know, believe, and how passionate we are. And Gallup suggests that highly engaged employees are emotionally connected and committed to the work and perform better. Here are some examples of contemporary issues in a rapidly changing workplace: remote and hybrid working, diversity and inclusion, technology and AI, psychological safety, work-life balance, and reward and recognition. So what is the issue? The issue is high staff turnover and preventing it. Disengaged staff leave toxic environments, so employers need to recognise this. Gittelman M, in his 2022 paper, talked about the Great Resignation in the US. In the years following 2021, there was a sustained increase in employees voluntarily leaving their jobs at a rate that far outweighed any economic slowdown factors or any explanation. Disengaged staff quietly, and sometimes not so quietly, leave organisations. So why do companies focus on engagement? They need to retain talent and also attract it. They need to strive to be world class to ensure they remain competitive. And people are an organisation's greatest asset, and they recognise that, especially highly engaged people. And how do they address it? They address it through employment engagement surveys. An engagement survey can be used as a marketing tool and benchmarked against an industry sort of recognised standard, for example Gallup, and used against the global metrics to show whether an employee is truly world class in its engagement or not. And this speaks to an employer's culture when employees are seeking out new employment. They need to pay attention to organisational culture and contemporary factors affecting employee engagement. They celebrate strengths while addressing and prioritising opportunities to improve. Chandani A, in 2016, in his paper, suggests that research shows that an increase in employment engagement typically results in a decline in turnover. So what are the advantages of employee engagement surveys? Sachs in 2006 suggests that the use of metrics over time enables benchmarking and trend analysis, resulting in deeper, more meaningful insights into the overall employee experience. The survey identifies antecedent factors affecting engagement, which include environment, transparency, and things like fairness. The survey gives employees a voice and promotes a sense of my opinions matter, but it can also evaluate the degree of organisational effectiveness, workplace resilience, inclusion and diversity, safety and well-being, and value an employee feels in their role. But there are limitations and potential risks, and employers need to be warned and safeguarded against such traps that they may fall into when conducting employee engagement surveys. For example, survey fatigue, when employees feel drained because of the high frequency of questionnaires they keep getting. Results do not lead to meaningful actions, creating action gaps, which means that nothing seems to ever get done around here. Leaders linking engagement to KPIs develops mistrust. Edmondson AC in his 1999 paper suggests that using low scores for performance management evaluations discourages honesty, which leads to organisational silence, something that Morrison E. in 2000 discussed in his literature. Aggregated headline scores also risk missing context, so while we're celebrating the overall score looking good, there may be some underlying issues that get missed. And a lack of authenticity and artificial harmony, a phrase coined by Patrick Lencioni, could cause underlying issues to be masked because people are frightened to speak out and share what they really mean on the topic of engagement. Let's have a look a little bit closer at Patrick Lencioni's conflict continuum, imagining a line with the ideal conflict point in the middle. Over to the far left, we have destructive conflict, and we can see a workforce there not very engaged and they're in full argument over everything. And over to the right, a real happy bunch there, but they don't really like to rock the boat or discuss anything contentious. We call that artificial harmony. Lencioni warns against teams and individuals that mask true issues by simply not saying what needs to be said, or score highly in engagement scores to be either left alone or look good. They're at risk at creating artificial harmony. In such a state, an organisation can never truly address any underlying issues that may arise and assume wrongly that everything's harmonious. So critical evaluation and potential solutions could be as follows. Organisations need to ensure that they have a strong survey design strategy because this increases credibility amongst its workforce. Interpretation is key, combining qualitative and quantitative measures. Numbers require narrative context to make sense. You need to respond. Transparency and timely feedback is really key, so publishing results soon after the survey closes is really important. Rosso D in 1995 suggests that responsiveness sustains engagement. Trust. Prioritize privacy, ethics, and psychological safety. Ethical stewardship of employee data develops trust. And be deliberate. Implement iterative, targeted intervention and check for impact and effectiveness, continuous improvement, and lead by example. And then action. Build and grow rather than mandate and manage. Leadership and employees, basically leading to meaningful action. In conclusion, employee engagement surveys are a contemporary tool. They have an emphasis on employee experience, and they rely on rigorous measurement and follow through on actions. They form an informal social contract between the employer and the employee, and when deployed responsibly, they're an asset to the organisation. They can flag underlying issues when people feel heard, and they can be integrated into people and culture strategy. They can cultivate engagement and create the climate for people to really succeed. But there are some watch-outs: lack of transparency or action, and if they're used as a performance stick, can create organisational silence where people are afraid to speak out. Alternatively, a lack of authenticity, just to be left alone through high scores, can lead to staff turnover because issues are swept under the carpet and not really dealt with. There is another element to this, which is personal responsibility. Individuals need to decide how they show up to work each day. Engagement is not just simply somebody else's responsibility. Personality drivers and how people respond in such surveys, I believe, merits further research. It's a really interesting topic. Thank you.